Dr. Amanda Mitchell rubbed her tired eyes, staring at the pattern of signals dancing across her monitor. The clock on the wall of NASA's Deep Space Communication Array read 3:47 a.m., but she couldn't tear herself away from what she was seeing. Something about these readings wasn't right. They were too perfect, too structured to be natural phenomena. "Hey, Pete," she called out to her colleague monitoring the adjacent station. "Can you verify something for me? I'm seeing a repeating sequence in the Kuiper Belt signals. Grid 7, frequency band delta." Dr. Peter Walsh wheeled his chair over, his coffee mug leaving a ring on his desk. As he studied the readings, his expression shifted from mild interest to concern. "That's impossible. These patterns suggest artificial origin, but they're coming from multiple points simultaneously." Amanda nodded, pulling up a 3D projection of the signal sources. "Whatever's generating these, they're moving in formation. Classical physics says they shouldn't be able to maintain such precise positioning at those speeds." Before Peter could respond, every monitor in the facility lit up with new alerts. The signals were intensifying, and now they were detecting massive gravitational distortions. Amanda's hands flew across her keyboard, running calculations that made her blood run cold. "Get Colonel Thompson on the line," she ordered, reaching for the secure phone. "Now." Within 20 minutes, Marine Colonel Jake Thompson strode into the facility, his formal uniform suggesting he'd come straight from a Pentagon meeting. His weathered face grew increasingly grim as Amanda walked him through the data. "So you're telling me we have multiple objects, massive ones, approaching from the outer solar system?" he asked, leaning over her shoulder to study the projections. "And they're moving in military formation." "Yes, but here's the thing. They're not trying to hide anymore." Amanda pulled up a new set of readings. "These energy signatures just appeared, like they want us to see them now." And there, she paused, double-checking her calculations. "They're beautiful. Perfect crystalline structures, if these readings are correct. Nothing in nature forms patterns this precise." The colonel's jaw tightened. "How long until they reach Earth?" "At current velocity, 48 hours. But sir, there's something else." Amanda brought up historical data from the past 6 months. "We've been picking up scattered signals like this for weeks, but they were disguised as normal space noise. They've been watching us, learning about us. This isn't first contact. It's the end of surveillance." Before Thompson could respond, the facility's primary screen lit up with an incoming transmission. The image that appeared showed a being that seemed carved from living crystal, its faceted surface refracting light in mesmerizing patterns. "People of Earth," the crystalline entity spoke in perfect English, its voice resonating with harmonic overtones. "We are the Crixin Assembly, and we come in peace. We seek diplomatic relations with your world." Colonel Thompson and Amanda exchanged glances. The colonel subtly shifted his tablet, showing her a classified military analysis of the aliens' fleet positioning. Their diplomatic formation exactly matched theoretical attack patterns developed by Earth's military strategists. "Dr. Mitchell," Thompson whispered, "how quickly can you get me a full analysis of their communications technology? Something about this feels wrong." Amanda was already working on it, her screens filling with signal analysis data. "Sir, their transmission methods are incredibly sophisticated, but there's something odd. They're using quantum-entangled communications, yet they're broadcasting on our radio frequencies with perfect clarity. No species would develop both technologies simultaneously. It's like they studied exactly how to talk to us." "Like they studied how to hunt us," Thompson muttered, pulling out his secure phone. "I need to contact command. Doctor, keep monitoring everything. Document all of it. If this goes south, we'll need every advantage we can get." As the colonel stepped away to make his calls, Amanda stared at the crystalline being still broadcasting its message of peace. In the creature's perfect symmetry and flawless transmission, she saw not beauty, but threat. Nature wasn't perfect. Nature was chaos and adaptation and survival. These beings, with their geometric precision and rehearsed diplomacy, were something else entirely. She began copying all her data to a secure, isolated server. If her instincts were right, humanity would need every scrap of information about these visitors. And soon, the Global Peace Summit in Geneva looked perfect on paper. Lieutenant Emma Rodriguez watched the security feeds from her station in the Denver bunker, noting how the Crixan delegates sparkled under the conference lights. Something about their crystalline forms made her old electromagnetic scanning equipment go haywire, interference patterns that shouldn't exist. "Central Command, are you seeing these energy spikes?" she asked, adjusting her headset. The response was lost in a sudden burst of static. That's when the world changed. The Crixan delegation rose as one, their forms shifting like kaleidoscopes. Energy beams lanced out, cutting through the conference center's roof. Similar reports flooded in from New York, London, Tokyo. Everywhere, the diplomatic missions had been established. The coordinated attack had begun. Deep in his quantum computing facility beneath the Montana wilderness, Marcus Wright watched his screens light up with alerts. The hidden facility, built to research next-generation computing architecture, had been designed to withstand electromagnetic interference. Now the design choice was proving unexpectedly vital. "Status report." He called out to his team. "What's still functioning?" Jessica Barnes, his lead engineer, pulled up system diagnostics. "Main power grid is down, but our shielded generators are holding. Internet's gone, but our quantum entanglement communication prototype is. Wait, it's picking up something weird." Marcus rushed to her station, brushing aside a stray lock of graying hair. The prototype, originally designed to explore quantum computing applications, was detecting patterns in the Crixan energy weapons. Each blast carried a distinct signature, like a crystalline fingerprint. "They're not just shooting energy," he realized, studying the readouts. "Their weapons are extensions of their crystalline structure. They're reshaping reality at a quantum level. But," he paused, noticing something crucial, "they can only do it in straight lines. Their attacks follow perfect geometric patterns." Back in Denver, Emma had made her own discovery. The outdated electromagnetic scanning equipment, preserved more out of nostalgia than necessity, was tracking the alien ships with perfect clarity. Modern systems were overwhelmed by the Crixans' advanced technology, but her old gear saw right through their defenses. Lieutenant Rodriguez to any surviving command centers. She broadcast on military frequencies. "The enemy's stealth tech doesn't work against analog systems. Switch to backup equipment from the 90s. They never bothered to shield against it." Across the burning ruins of what had been Seattle, a group of survivors led by Army Captain Michael Reynolds put this information to use. They salvaged old radio equipment from a museum, establishing a communications network the Crixans couldn't detect. "Their attack patterns are too perfect," Reynolds observed, watching enemy ships through binoculars. "They move like a computer simulation, no adaptation, no real tactical thinking. It's all geometry and calculations." In the Montana facility, Marcus Wright reached the same conclusion. "They think they're dealing with a primitive species," he told his team, studying the attack patterns. "They analyzed our most advanced technology and developed counters for it, but they never bothered with our older systems. They're too arrogant to consider them a threat." The facility's quantum sensors revealed another crucial detail. The Crixan ships maintained their precise formations through some form of crystalline resonance. Their fleet moved as a single lattice structure, beautiful but inflexible. Emma Rodriguez, coordinating with surviving military units through her vintage equipment, began to see a pattern. "The aliens' energy weapons are devastating our infrastructure," she reported, "but they're missing our backup systems, our old tech, our underground facilities. They studied our cutting-edge technology, but ignored our redundancies, our backup plans, our ability to operate with minimal resources." Marcus Wright's team worked through the night, their quantum computers analyzing the Crixan attack patterns. Every movement was mathematically perfect, every formation flawlessly executed. And in that perfection lay weakness. They couldn't adapt, couldn't handle chaos or improvisation. As dawn broke over a changed Earth, humanity began to understand its advantages. The Crixans had expected to face a technologically advanced but predictable opponent. Instead, they found a species that kept its old technology alongside the new, that built redundancy into everything, that could lose its most advanced systems and still fight back with whatever tools remained. The aliens had started this war with surgical precision. Humanity would respond with organized chaos, and in that response lay the seeds of an unprecedented retaliation. Dr. Kevin Anderson hadn't meant to discover the Crixans' weakness. He was simply trying to help his daughter sleep. The alien ship's crystalline resonance kept 16-year-old Emily awake at night, their frequencies aggravating her sensory sensitivities. In their hidden lab deep within the Appalachian Mountains, he worked to create a counter-frequency that might help her rest. "Dad, that one hurts," Emily said, covering her ears as another test frequency filled the room. But something else happened. The crystalline sample they'd salvaged from a downed fighter cracked. Kevin rushed to the microscope. "Emily, can you describe exactly what you felt when that frequency played?" She tilted her head, considering. "It's like when you run your finger around a wine glass and hit the right note, but bigger, scarier, like the whole world wants to shake apart." His daughter's unique sensitivity to frequencies had revealed something the conventional instruments missed. The Crixan crystalline structure had natural resonance points, and they were fatal ones. Meanwhile, in Seattle's underground tech haven, retired Air Force Captain Sarah Brooks assembled her unconventional cyber warfare team. They'd set up shop in an abandoned subway station, their servers powered by jury-rigged solar cells hidden in the ruins above. "Look at this code structure," she said, pointing to captured Crixan data streams. "It's perfect, too perfect. Every routine follows exact mathematical progressions. No redundancy, no error checking. They don't expect anything to go wrong." Randy Martinez, a former Black Hat hacker, grinned at his screen. "Their systems are like crystal matrices, beautiful but brittle. One flaw propagates through the entire structure. And guess what Earth tech is really good at? Creating chaos in ordered systems." The team had already infected several Crixan ground units with modified computer viruses. The aliens' perfect crystalline computing architecture had no defense against the deliberately messy, self-modifying code humans had developed to fight other humans. Back in the Appalachian lab, Kevin Anderson made another breakthrough. He found Emily humming along with some of the test frequencies, her perfect pitch matching the resonance patterns. "The harmonics," he muttered, rushing to his equipment. "It's not just about the primary frequency. It's about the overlapping harmonics. The Crixans use crystalline technology because it's perfect, predictable. But that perfection makes them fragile," Emily finished, understanding lighting her eyes. "Like how a pure note can shatter a glass, but a messy sound won't." Kevin quickly encoded his daughter's humming patterns, analyzing the complex harmonics her human vocal cords produced naturally. The results were stunning. Human voices created chaotic, overlapping frequency patterns that the Crixan crystalline structure couldn't handle. In Seattle, Sarah's team made a parallel discovery in the digital realm. "Their quantum encryption is unbreakable," she explained to her team. "But they never considered old-school analog attacks. We can't crack their code, but we can drown it in noise." The resistance movements began sharing discoveries through the old radio networks. Kevin's acoustic findings matched perfectly with Sarah's cyber warfare tactics. The Crixans were vulnerable to chaos in all its forms, from sound waves to data streams. Emily, despite her sensitivity to sensory input, or perhaps because of it, proved crucial in fine-tuning the acoustic weapons. "The crystals sing back," she explained to the skeptical military officers who visited the lab. "If you listen carefully, they tell you exactly how they want to break." As the third week of occupation drew to a close, humanity had found its edge. The Crixen's perfect crystalline technology, their greatest strength, contained the seeds of their defeat. They had evolved to embrace mathematical perfection, shedding all the messy, chaotic aspects of natural evolution that humanity still retained. Sarah's team prepared to launch their first major cyber assault, while Kevin and Emily finalized the designs for sonic disruptor weapons. The aliens had expected to face primitive technology wielded by inferior organic beings. Instead, they would face the full chaos of humanity, in its voice, in its code, and in its unrelenting drive to survive. The Resistance had its weapons now. The time for hiding was over. The time for breaking crystals had begun. Major David Cooper had seen plenty of trauma cases in his years as a military psychiatrist, but nothing like this. The escaped prisoners from the Houston Detention Center all shared the same bizarre story. The Crixen mind-scanning technology simply couldn't read them. "It's like they're trying to solve a puzzle that keeps changing shape," explained Private Jennifer Hayes, her hands trembling around a cup of coffee. "Their scanners pass right through us, like we're not even there." In the underground bunker serving as his new office, David documented each testimony, patterns emerging in the data. The Crixen's crystalline neural networks, designed to process thoughts as orderly geometric patterns, couldn't handle the chaos of human consciousness. "Show me again what happened when they tried to scan you," he asked a group of survivors, setting up monitoring equipment. As they recalled their experiences, his EEG readings showed why the aliens had failed. Human brains didn't think in straight lines or perfect patterns. They created storms of neural activity, thoughts branching and connecting in ways that defied mathematical prediction. Meanwhile, in the ruins of Houston's industrial district, mechanical engineer Rebecca Martinez had made her own discovery. She stood in her makeshift workshop, surrounded by salvaged car parts and consumer electronics, studying the captured Crixen drone. "Their technology expects perfection," she explained to her team of mechanics and engineers. "But look what happens when we introduce a little controlled chaos." She connected a modified car alternator to the drone's power system. The crystalline circuits, designed for precise energy flows, couldn't handle the dirty power from the improvised human technology. "They built their machines to reject imperfect energy signatures," Rebecca said, making adjustments to her setup. "But that means we can feed them garbage signals that their systems can't filter out. It's like giving someone with perfect pitch a deliberately out-of-tune orchestra. They can't ignore it, and they can't process it." Back in the psychiatric facility, David Cooper made a breakthrough while interviewing a former prisoner named Michael Chen. "When they scanned me," Michael explained, "I started doing complex mental math problems while simultaneously singing Happy Birthday in my head. Their whole system crashed." David leaned forward, intrigued. "You deliberately created mental noise?" "Yeah, like changing radio stations really fast. Their scanners tried to follow all the mental channels at once and just froze." This revelation led to a new resistance tactic. David began teaching escaped prisoners how to deliberately create mental chaos, solving equations while reciting poetry, visualizing three-dimensional shapes while remembering dance moves. The Crixen scanning technology, trying to create perfect crystalline models of these thoughts, failed catastrophically. Rebecca's team in Houston achieved similar results in the mechanical realm. They discovered that by mixing different types of Earth technology, digital, analog, and mechanical, they could create hybrid systems that the Crixens couldn't predict or counter. "Look at this," she said, showing her team a modified smartphone, controlling a Crixen drone. "Their systems are so focused on detecting advanced tech that they ignore our primitive signals completely. We can hide our command frequencies in what they consider background noise." The two discoveries converged when David Cooper visited Rebecca's workshop to share his findings. The unpredictable patterns of human consciousness matched perfectly with the chaotic signals from jury-rigged human technology. "It's not just about fighting their technology," David realized, watching Rebecca's team deploy their hybrid-controlled drones. "It's about embracing everything they consider flawed about us. Our messy thoughts, our imperfect machines, our ability to function in chaos. Rebecca nodded, making final adjustments to a drone's control system. They built their entire civilization on the idea that perfection equals strength. They never considered that adaptation requires imperfection, that survival often means being able to work with broken or incomplete tools. As their teams combined their knowledge, a new strategy emerged. They couldn't match the Crixans' technological perfection, but they could overwhelm it with complexity. Human minds and machines, working together in beautiful chaos, became weapons that the crystalline invaders simply couldn't comprehend. The Resistance now had two powerful weapons, minds that couldn't be read and machines that couldn't be predicted. The next phase of the war would show the Crixans that perfection wasn't just overrated. It was a weakness waiting to be exploited. Captain Michael Harrison crouched behind a destroyed Crixan barrier in downtown Atlanta, watching the crystalline patrol through his binoculars. The aliens moved in perfect geometric formations, their steps synchronized with machine-like precision. 6 hours until the coordinated strike. His hand tightened around the modified sonic weapon, its design a marriage of Kevin Anderson's research and Rebecca Martinez's engineering. Echo Team, status report, he whispered into his retrofitted radio, deliberately using older frequencies the Crixans ignored. Western approach secured, came the response from Lieutenant Sarah Parker. The crystals are following the same patrol pattern, exact same timing as yesterday. You could set your watch by them. Michael smiled grimly. The aliens' predictability, born of their belief in perfect order, had become their greatest vulnerability. 3 continents, 12 major cities, all coordinating through Emma Rodriguez's vintage communication network. The Resistance had spent weeks tracking patrol patterns, noting how the Crixans followed identical routes down to the microsecond. In his earpiece, Dr. Kevin Anderson's voice crackled. Remember, the resonance has to build gradually. Too fast, and their adaptive shielding might compensate. Too slow, and they'll detect it. Emily says it needs to feel like a rising symphony. The 16-year-old girl's unique understanding of harmonics had proven invaluable. The Resistance had tested the weapons extensively on captured Crixan technology, each success guided by Emily's intuitive grasp of sound patterns. 5 hours to convergence. Emma Rodriguez broadcast from her Denver command center. All teams, final equipment check. These frequencies will only work once. They'll adapt after the first strike. Make it count. Michael's team moved through the ruins, placing sonic resonators in precise locations. The devices looked cobbled together, car speakers, old amplifiers, parts salvaged from a dozen different sources. The Crixan scanners, programmed to detect advanced energy weapons, ignored what they perceived as primitive audio equipment. In London, Paris, and Moscow, other teams mirrored their actions. The plan relied on human unpredictability. Each team would strike at slightly different times, creating a cascade of resonant frequencies impossible for the crystalline minds to process. 1 hour, Emma's voice announced. Michael watched his target patrol through the scope. The aliens hadn't deviated from their route by so much as an inch in 3 weeks. The first shot came from Sydney, ahead of schedule. Classic human improvisation. A patrol of Crixan warriors shattered like frozen glass, their perfect crystalline forms unable to handle the chaotic sound waves. The signal rippled across the Resistance network. Sydney base. First blood confirmed. Michael gave the order. All units, execute. The modified speakers activated in sequence, building harmonics just as Emily had taught them. The effect was devastating. Crixan soldiers froze mid-step, their crystalline forms vibrating. Cracks appeared, spreading like lightning through their geometric patterns. The aliens tried to adapt, their forms shifting to compensate, but the frequencies kept changing, guided by human musicians and sound engineers who understood that true music isn't about mathematical perfection. They're responding, Emma warned over the radio. Orbital platforms shifting. They're trying to coordinate a response, but their command structure can't handle simultaneous attacks in multiple locations. In his bunker, Dr. Anderson watched the data streams with Emily. Their hierarchical communication is breaking down, he reported. They can't process this many variations at once. Keep changing the attack patterns. Michael's team pressed the advantage. Mobile units with shoulder-mounted sonic weapons pursuing the retreating Crixans. The aliens attempted to form defensive geometric patterns, but the humans attacked from seemingly random angles, disrupting their formations. Berlin reporting success. Moscow secured. Toronto holding strong. The reports flooded in. Emma coordinated the global effort from Denver, using the vintage communication network to stay ahead of Crixan countermeasures. As dawn broke over Atlanta, Michael stood amid the glittering remains of the Crixan patrol. The crystalline shards were beautiful, catching the morning light like diamond dust. Their perfect forms, now shattered, served as a testament to the power of controlled chaos over rigid order. All teams, confirm status. Emma's voice came through, strong and clear on the old frequencies. The responses painted a picture of unprecedented victory. Humanity had landed its first major blow, proving that the supposedly primitive species could not only fight back, but win. The Crixans had expected submission. Instead, they learned that humans were masters of asymmetric warfare, turning their own technological superiority against them. The real war was just beginning, and humanity had found its rhythm. A battle song of chaos and adaptation that would shake the invaders to their crystalline core. Commander Ashley Parker stood in the Kennedy Space Center's underground hangar, staring at what Marcus Wright's team had dubbed Project Thunderbolt. The modified space shuttle Discovery looked almost comical next to the sleek Crixan ships they'd seen, like comparing a reliable pickup truck to a Ferrari. "They'll never see it coming," Marcus said, patting the shuttle's weathered hull. "Their sensors are calibrated for advanced propulsion signatures. Good old-fashioned chemical rockets. Might as well be invisible." The shuttle's cargo bay housed the real surprise. Electromagnetic surge generators cobbled together from salvaged Crixan tech and Earth components. Rebecca Martinez's team had outdone themselves, creating weapons that looked like scrap metal but packed enough punch to overwhelm crystalline circuits. "Navigation's ready," reported Lisa Chen, their lead pilot. "We're using mechanical gyroscopes and optical tracking. No digital systems for them to detect or hack. Just like flying in the 1960s, but with better math." Ashley walked her crew through the plan one final time. 5 shuttles, launched from different sites around the globe, would approach the Crixan orbital platforms under the guise of debris. The aliens had grown complacent, their orbital defenses focused on detecting energy weapons and advanced drive signatures. "Remember," Marcus explained, checking the surge generators, "their shields are tuned to stop plasma weapons and energy beams. They never bothered designing defenses against simple kinetic impacts. Why would they? In their minds, no civilized species would resort to throwing rocks." Lieutenant James Rodriguez grinned, checking his modified rifle. "Good thing we're not that civilized. The weapons had been specially designed for space combat. Simple tungsten rounds that would punch through crystalline hull material like a hammer through glass." At the designated hour, Discovery lifted off, riding a column of fire into the dawn sky. To any observers, it looked like a desperate launch, perhaps civilians trying to escape. The Crixan orbital platforms barely registered the primitive chemical rocket's ascent. "Platform in range," Lisa announced, her hand steady on the manual controls. "They're still not reacting. These crystalline bastards really do think we're harmless." Ashley gave the order. "All hands, prepare for breach maneuvers. Remember your training. In 0, slow is smooth, and smooth is fast." The shuttle's cargo bay doors opened silently. James and his team, wearing retrofitted spacesuits, deployed with their kinetic weapons. The Crixan shield flickered with beautiful geometric patterns, designed to disperse energy weapons, but solid objects passed right through. "First breach point secured," James reported. "You should see their faces. Well, their crystalline equivalent. They look confused. They can't understand why their scans didn't detect us as a threat. The electromagnetic surge generators powered up, their unrefined energy signatures creating chaos in the Crixin's perfect crystalline systems. Alarms blared across the platform as the aliens tried to compensate, their rigid protocols failing against attacks their doctrine had never contemplated. Reports flowed in from the other shuttles. Atlantis breaching a command node over Asia, Endeavour targeting communications arrays above Europe. The Crixins, masters of space warfare, found themselves being systematically dismantled by what they considered museum pieces. They're trying to adapt, Marcus warned, monitoring the alien responses. But their crystalline technology requires perfect alignment. Our crude energy pulses are creating microscopic flaws in their lattice structure. They can't maintain geometric stability. Ashley watched through the viewport as sections of the orbital platform began to crack, the perfect crystalline forms unable to handle the chaotic energy patterns. James and his team moved methodically through the structure, their simple kinetic weapons proving devastatingly effective against enemies whose armor was designed to repel far more sophisticated attacks. Control center secured, James reported. You won't believe what we found. Their entire command interface is crystalline-based. They literally can't operate our primitive mechanical systems. We own this platform now. Lisa skillfully docked Discovery with the captured section, and Ashley led the second wave of troops aboard. The Crixins had built their orbital defenses assuming any serious attack would come from an advanced civilization using technology similar to their own. Instead, they faced humans wielding a mix of old and new, crude and sophisticated, all combined in ways their rigid military doctrine couldn't counter. As Earth's 5 shuttles secured their objectives, Ashley allowed herself a small smile. The Crixins had forgotten a crucial lesson. Sometimes the simplest solution was the best one. They had expected humanity to fight like them, with crystalline perfection and geometric precision. Instead, they got duct tape, tungsten rounds, and good old-fashioned human ingenuity. The path to orbit was open. The real invasion, humanity's invasion, could begin. Major David Cooper sat in his makeshift psychic warfare center, surrounded by rescued prisoners who had learned to weaponize their consciousness. Remember, he instructed, don't try to focus. Let your minds wander naturally. Human chaos is our strength. The combined offensive began with a whisper rather than a bang. Hundreds of human minds broadcasting their thoughts in deliberately chaotic patterns, creating a psychic storm that the Crixin commanders couldn't filter out or ignore. Neural interference at maximum, reported Lieutenant Rachel Wong, monitoring the brainwave patterns. Their crystalline command network is trying to compensate, but they can't handle the cognitive dissonance. Meanwhile, Rebecca Martinez launched her drone assault from the captured orbital platforms. Thousands of reprogrammed maintenance bots, their perfect crystalline programming corrupted with human-designed viruses, swarmed toward the Crixin flagship. They're trying to lock us out, Rebecca's voice crackled over the comm. But they can't patch their systems fast enough. Every time they block one virus, 3 more variations slip through. They never understood why we kept our computers messy and redundant. Sarah Brooks and her cyber warfare team struck next, their attacks flowing through the old internet protocols the Crixins had dismissed as obsolete. Their quantum-encrypted communications, unbreakable by conventional means, fell apart when flooded with millions of conflicting signals. Status report. Commander Ashley Parker demanded from her position on the captured orbital station. The drones have breached their outer defenses, Rebecca responded. They're following maintenance protocols, but with random variations. The Crixins can't distinguish friendly units from hostile ones without completely shutting down their automated systems. David's team intensified their psychic assault. The prisoners they'd rescued had learned to project their most chaotic thoughts, dreams, memories, emotions, all swirling together in patterns that defied the crystalline logic of Crixin minds. Their flagship shields are fluctuating, Sarah reported. They're losing coherence. The geometric patterns are breaking down. A pause. Wait. They're powering up their main weapon systems. The Crixan Admiral, his crystalline form fracturing under the stress of human chaos, made his final move. "Your primitive species will not defeat us." His transmission echoed across all frequencies, initiating crystal resonance cascade. "All ships, prepare for final protocol." But Sarah's team had anticipated this. While the Crixans focused on their grand strategies, human hackers had infiltrated their basic system protocols. The self-destruct sequence initiated, then fizzled as lines of deliberately buggy code corrupted the execution. Did we just crash their entire command network with an infinite loop? One of Sarah's junior hackers asked, staring at his screen. "Better," Sarah grinned. "We crashed it with bad code from the 1990s. They're so perfect, so advanced, they never built in protections against simple programming errors. Their systems are trying to resolve a divide by zero error right now." Rebecca's drones pressed the advantage, their corrupted programming spreading through the Crixan network like a virus through a crystal lattice. Each drone carried a unique variant of the control code, making it impossible for the aliens to develop a single countermeasure. On the flagship's bridge, the Admiral watched in horror as his perfect crystalline systems fragmented. Human chaos had infected every level of their operation, from the physical to the digital to the psychological. Their rigid hierarchy, once their greatest strength, now ensured that every failure cascaded through their entire fleet. "Your species," he transmitted, his voice distorting as his crystalline form began to crack. "You are not primitive at all. You are something worse. You are chaos incarnate." "No," David Cooper responded, broadcasting on all frequencies. "We're not chaos incarnate. We're human. We learn. We adapt. We take what works and discard what doesn't. Your perfect crystalline empire never understood that evolution requires imperfection." The Crixan flagship's systems crashed completely, its perfect geometric forms shattering under the combined assault of human ingenuity. As the crystal ships fell dark, Earth's retrofitted vessels moved in to secure their prizes. Sarah's team confirmed what their scans suggested. The entire Crixan command structure had collapsed. Their rigid protocols, unable to handle the multiple layers of human chaos, had fractured beyond repair. The empire that had expected to crush a primitive species had instead been undone by the very imperfections they had scorned. Humanity hadn't just won a victory. They had proven that their greatest perceived weaknesses, their chaos, their redundancy, their stubborn refusal to embrace perfect efficiency, were actually the key to their survival. The age of crystalline perfection was over. The age of human adaptation had begun. 1 year later, Dr. Amanda Mitchell stood in the newly constructed Unified Space Command Center, watching holographic displays powered by hybrid crystal silicon processors. The same workstation where she'd first detected the Crixan invasion now showed humanity's first wave of exploration ships venturing into deep space. "The Lawrence Array is picking up interesting signals from the Centauri system," she reported to Marcus Wright, who was fine-tuning the quantum computing arrays. "The hybrid sensors are working better than we expected." Marcus nodded, his fingers dancing across a control panel that merged salvaged Crixan technology with human intuitive design. "That's because we didn't try to force perfection. We let the crystals be crystals, and the silicon be silicon. It's the interface between order and chaos that gives us our edge." In the Houston Engineering Complex, Rebecca Martinez led a team of human and alien engineers. Several Crixan defectors, drawn to humanity's innovative approach after their empire's fall, now worked alongside their former enemies. Their crystalline forms had evolved, showing subtle imperfections that their rigid society would have once considered heretical. "The new drive system is ready for testing," announced Lisa Chen, now chief test pilot for the exploration fleet. "We're using Crixan quantum mechanics, but controlled through human neural interfaces. Their precision, our intuition." The first anniversary of the victory brought delegates from across the galaxy to Earth. The defeat of the Crixan Empire had sent shockwaves through galactic civilization. Species that had lived in fear of crystalline perfection now sought alliance with the humans who had shattered it. Commander Ashley Parker, recently promoted to Fleet Admiral, addressed the assembled dignitaries from a podium in the rebuilt United Nations. 1 year ago, we faced extinction at the hands of an enemy who believed perfection was power. They saw our chaos as weakness, our adaptability as primitive, our diversity as a flaw. They were wrong. Today, we extend our hands and various appendages, she added with a smile to the alien delegates, in friendship, not as conquerors, but as partners in exploration. In the Appalachian Research Facility, now expanded into the Global Harmonic Institute, Emily Anderson worked with a team of xenomusicologists. Her sensitivity to frequencies had led to breakthroughs in interspecies communication. The chaotic harmony she could hear in human thought patterns were helping bridge the gap between crystalline precision and organic improvisation. Every species has its own song, she explained to a group of fascinated alien researchers. The trick isn't to make them all sing the same note. It's to help them harmonize while keeping their unique voices. David Cooper's psychological research had revolutionized galactic understanding of consciousness. His studies of human mental chaos had spawned a new field of cognitive science, one that recognized the value of neural plasticity and emotional complexity. The Crixans taught us what not to do, he told his international class of human and alien students. They sought to eliminate uncertainty from their minds and machines, but uncertainty, change, adaptation. These are the foundations of consciousness itself. Sarah Brooks led the new Xenotechnology Integration Division, where her team worked to merge different species approaches to computing. Their first success was a network that could handle both crystalline quantum processing and organic neural patterns simultaneously. The future isn't about choosing between order and chaos, she explained during a global tech conference. It's about understanding when to use each and how to let them complement each other. As the sun set over the new Houston spaceport, Amanda Mitchell watched humanity's first FTL exploration vessel prepare for launch. The ship was a testament to everything they'd learned. Its hull combining Crixan crystals with Earth metals, its computers running on hybrid networks, its crew representing the best of human adaptability. Ready for launch, Captain Jennifer Hayes, once a prisoner of the Crixans, now commander of humanity's first deep space mission, reported from the bridge. Her crew included both humans and reformed Crixans, their combined strengths greater than the sum of their parts. The ship rose on a pillar of light, its hybrid drives leaving a trail of quantum particles that sparkled like diamonds in the twilight. Humanity had not just survived the crucible of invasion. They had emerged stronger, wiser, but still fundamentally human. Their chaos, their creativity, their unwillingness to accept limitations had become their greatest gifts to the galaxy. As the ship disappeared into FTL, Amanda smiled. The stars had once seemed distant, hostile, full of threats. Now they were full of possibilities, waiting for humanity to bring its unique blend of order and chaos to the cosmic dance. The age of crystal perfection was over. The age of infinite adaptation had begun.